Welcome to Well Played Podcast, a show on all things playful and joyous. Together we are finding the joy in the journey of life. This is Well Played's 75th episode, and a special one at that. Today I have Carrie Bockham once again, and we are doing a follow-up on our last episode. This is part 2 of our New Year, New Mechanics sort of, two-part series. And if you want to check that one out, that was episode 73. And welcome, Carrie. And just in case this is somebody's first time, can you give us a quick, brief introduction to yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Bockham. I'm a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade special education teacher from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And I'm always happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, love having you on there, Carrie. Carrie, you and I could totally geek out about this stuff like ad nauseum. So
more than 2 episodes.
More than 2 episodes. And for those of you that have been well played binge listeners, you know Carrie's on here quite a bit. Always love having you here. So let's dive right in. We have, this show's only 30 minutes, and you and I can talk forever about this. So trying to share as many bits of wisdom and little changes and tweaks. This year, as every year, you and I, reflect and think about what didn't work and tweaks. And sometimes it's not even about not working. Sometimes like our mechanics are working fine, but we're still pushed to sort of make that best combination. We're, striving for that best combination and knowing our kids that year. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons we might want to tweak. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we just want to change things up, even though it's working.
Life never stops inspiring us, right?
That's right. I mean,
no matter how solid our games are, life just throws stuff at you and you feel inspired by it. So it's hard not to change sometimes.
That's right. You just sort of keep playing with it. I also think too, something that we need to think about and maybe tell people, especially you gamifiers that do year-long games, and if you're entering into your 2nd year of it, or maybe even your 3rd year of it, which I'm kind of excited to say there are more and more people out there that's a real statement.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is some of you may want to also give thought to sort of just pruning your game. Like over time, I remember my 2nd, 3rd, maybe even 4th year, I had just kept adding new mechanics, but never really took the time to say like, this one, while good and it still works, it doesn't add enough value for that like extra rule, that extra idea, that extra thing. So, also think about just pruning your game a little bit. I think that's a good bit of advice. But today's actually all about what are we adding to our games. So take that bit of advice, and I'm going to be done talking about that advice. So, do you have something that you want to share with the world? I'm sure you'll vlog about it at some point if you have not already. I'm sure I will do the same.
I have not yet, actually. This will be the first time I've talked about this on the airwaves.
Dang.
No, so for many years, I have had a Monopoly board that's been the center visual of my game. And my students move pieces around it, just like you would on a Monopoly board. And at the beginning of the year, we play once a week. And then once they really become efficient game players, we usually can get up to like four, sometimes 5 times a week moving around the board. And students play the board just like they would Monopoly, buying properties. And then if other players land on their property, they get to pay each other XP, which my students absolutely love. And as the game developed and my game skills and knowledge developed, last year I added things like anomalies and a black hole. And those became super fun things that I was able to add dice into. So students would roll dice to see what was going to happen to them on those spots. And so as last year ended, I totally love the Monopoly board. It works for my students. It works for my classroom. It's allowed me to add a lot of wonderful mechanics that have been added to naturally. But I really wanted to up my game. And I remember, it's still big now, Fortnite was huge at the end of this last school year. And I would just sit and listen to my students talk more and more about it and ask them what they liked about it. And there's this, in video games and even especially Fortnite and other games, there's this map idea, that the students can travel from place to place and things. And I thought to myself, how can I take this really standard visual that's Monopoly and transform it into something really visual that's a map? And so I took all the elements and components of Monopoly and went to a bigger bulletin board in my classroom. And now Monopoly has become a galaxy.
Yes.
So the little spots on the board aren't spots anymore, they're planets. And then each planet around it has properties as well. And students will still move from spot to spot. I'll put Velcro on the bulletin board, but some of the Velcro spots, students won't know what they're landing on until they land on it. So now there's going to be an invisible map that only myself and my teaching assistants know. So they won't know they're going to land on an anomaly until they land there and
Come
something
on, you
happens.
can show me the map. This is radio. No one will see it.
When we'll see it. So it's just I'm really excited to take something that's very standard, that has a lot of good elements and transform it into something really visual and really I think a lot more engaging and a lot more like the galaxy, right? It takes this really meta thing and makes it really just it gives them a place to be in the game. So
I
I'm
love
super
it.
excited about that.
The other thing I really like too is literally like you jumped from the board, you know, to sort of this more free form Monopoly, but at the same time there's enough familiarity with traditional board game kind of around the edge
Hmm.
mentality, the properties like right, so like it has enough that the kids are used to, but at the same time intriguing because it's not quite the same. Like, ooh, that's just a nice balance of, what is Mrs. Backham up to? Mystique. I dig
Uh-huh.
it. Uh, that's really awesome.
No, and that's a really good observation because that was something that was really important to my students, the exchange of XP and being able to own things and then build colonies on things and charge people even more XP. They just ate that up. But I also wanted to give myself more freedom to have more fun with game mechanics that I knew would push my students' imaginations as well as their thinking about the game.
So, if you're listening right now, what I want you to sort of think about what Carrie just said, even if you don't understand it, because I think this is the thing that many new gamifiers miss. They think that someone like Carrie and I understand all the words that just came out of Carrie's mouth. We don't. Like when Carrie said students want colonies and they want to like build these things and they want to have like shuttles that go between the two. Like Carrie didn't probably at any point know anything about that except that sounds really cool. Like
Hmm.
I want to figure out a mechanic to allow them to have colonies, to allow them to have space shuttles that bounce between and like resources they could collect on one planet or the other, right? But none of that was like created at the moment. You just have to kind of be open and see what you and your students get excited about. Like just listening to you, Carrie, I got excited about this idea of like colonies on planets and like I want to play the game. Like that's that just allow yourself to let that freedom be there and just realize that mechanics will come, and I'm sure Carrie will be happy to tell us right now sometimes mechanics won't come and you don't add it, or maybe growth mindset wise we don't add it yet, and then like eventually you're like, oh, this idea from this TV show or this idea from this board game or video game would work perfectly for creating colonies or whatever, and maybe next year you add the colonies, right?
No, that's a super point because I remember when I really wanted to bring spaceships into my games. I had started playing board games more, and the idea of students being able to use this ship that could take them from place to place, maybe amplify their movement or speed up their movement. It took me like until last year to get it right. It took me 3 years to figure out how this one element that I really wanted to work was going to work. And the first time I had them build their spaceships because my daughters had been playing this game, and I thought that would be a good idea. Total wipeout. It didn't work. So I brought it again, and then last year, it was just kind of quiet until I made this huge update, and I gave my second year's ships. So sometimes those elements, you have to keep iterating them, right, and trying them over and over again until you see what sticks. And you're right. Sometimes they just have to be ideas. If I'm sure you have the same thing I do, I have a list of to try things
Oh
in
yeah.
my Google Drive, and it just sits there and it waits for the right moment or the right time or just time in itself to be put into place. So you just never know. And sometimes ideas are worth not giving up on too.
Yeah. I mean, that simple idea of a list, I'm sure it's like the oldest thing ever. But I have to say, I'm going to give credit to Dave Burgess. When I read Teach Like a Pirate, he said he carries around a little like notepad. And back when he was a teacher, you know, any idea that like would spring on him, no matter where he was, walk in the park, whatever, he wanted to be able to jot down this idea. Many of them never came to fruition, but but the simple act of writing it down, one, freed his mind up to not worry about it and trying to remember that. But
Mhm.
two, like, he sort of spoke in the book a little bit about having greater confidence, like knowing that you have this like bag of like ideas. So when you want to sit down, whether that's next month, whether that's next summer, whatever, when you want to sit down to like add stuff, you know that it's there. Like, you know, ideas are waiting to come to life. And I always thought that was like a neat idea. So yes, I since then create some lists for some things like that. I'm still not totally a list check it off kind of person for like cleaning the house and errands, but for a list of ideas, I liked that. I always liked that. For me,
Yes.
super jazzed. I want to share, and like I will definitely be vlogging about this week or next week. This year I've added avatars to my game, and my colleague who does sixth grade science, I've talked about her on here before. Cami Fultz, she's a fantastic science teacher. She gamifies her whole course too, and she's always had avatars, and she really uses them more to connect students. So they print them out. They have to like give themselves an agent name, a little backstory, and then she prints them out. And then her top 10, she has a leaderboard. She uses my leaderboard thing, but then her actual top 10, she makes like a little pyramid of their avatars on a
Mhm.
bulletin board, so you can see who's in the lead in the classroom.
Cool.
Kids love it. Uh, and so for, I don't know, probably the past 3 years, I'm like, I should do avatars. Like, the kids dig it. She's liking it. There's probably lots of things I could do with it. But just like we're talking about, I just sort of, that idea was on the list, but never actuated.
Mhm.
And this year I decided, boom, I'm going to do it. And I don't know if any of you or if all of you follow my vlog, but last year, at the beginning of last year, my new mechanic was going to be this map. And that one I was not ready for. I made a beautiful looking map, but like the mechanics weren't all there. And so it kind of hung there, and I told the kids about it, but then we never really used it. I still like this idea, but I'm not ready for the map, but I am ready for this. So I have them making these avatars, and at first I was going to kind of just steal her idea, just have these avatars, use
Mhm.
it to kind of bond kids. But then I thought, ooh, better mechanic for me in my game is I made them make it on like a card, which is the same size as my items. And then in their 9 pocket item case, they put the card in the center. So now they only have 8 pockets because the avatar has to take the center.
Uh-huh.
I also have like a heart mechanic thing that I used in previous year, but this time I'm not going to go digital. They're going to be physical. And on the back side of their avatar, well, just it's like a separate sheet of paper,
Mhm.
has their max heart container. So I printed out all these, like, this person can hold 3, this person can hold 5, whatever. And they're going to put that behind their avatar. So then we'll always see how many hearts they're able to hold. And then I actually printed and laminated, which was big for me. I've never laminated anything in my life. So, uh, no, I was like skipping down the hall and like telling everybody, do you need me to laminate anything? Because I think it's genius. Why hasn't anybody told me that?
Laminating things is genius.
A genius. If you don't know anything about it, we can, like, that could be episode 76 because it's amazing. Uh, so
I
I
think
laminate,
seeing you skip down the hallway would be amazing.
maybe a future vlog. So threw those in the laminator, cut them up, and they're these little Zelda hearts. So now I have a couple of mechanics at play here. One, they have this avatar. Now the health's right there, so I can do things like boss battles. They can get dinged for health, that kind of thing, and it's not something that I have to really like go over to the computer and track and da da da. Now it can be just give me a heart, like whatever. Um, but the other thing I absolutely love is I've already made a couple, quote unquote, I'm doing the air quotes here for those of you that aren't watching on the YouTube, uh, buildings. And I just made kind of a cool
Right.
graphic in, well, I use Pages, but you could use like even a PowerPoint type thing and
Mhm.
print it out. And nice little graphic. It tells what the building does, but then I have these little slots for their avatars. So now they can take their avatar out, and it's another limiting factor in the game because you only have one avatar, and there might be these 5 or 6 buildings you want to go to. So now it's like, where am I putting, almost like a worker, where am I sending my worker to go do something for this
Mhm.
week, for this day, whatever the case may be. And then they're actually going to, it's up on a bulletin board where I hang these buildings. And right now, I just kept it simple, which is another bit of advice, right? Like, while I want the whole map idea, like, oh gosh, do I want the whole map idea? I started with just, I think I only have actually 3 buildings printed so far. None are hung up yet. So one, this is like a mechanic that will come out.
Mhm.
But I see a ton of potential of what I could do with these buildings and this avatar system where they go to these buildings. Right now, I'm going to have the buildings be general buildings that anybody could use. Maybe if I dedicate enough time to figure it all out, I have another bulletin board that I could divide in four for my 4 houses and maybe let houses build better buildings that only like their house can go to. But
Cool.
but right now it's just these. There's going to be this one board that's going to have 4, 5, 6 buildings, however many I can figure out this year, and maybe that's all I do for this year, and maybe I don't do the house thing till next year. Like, who knows? But super jazzed about this, and I already know kids are going to love it because it's another choice. It's another, well, one, they're all loving building their avatar, like all of them in all of their free time. Like, people have made like 10 of them, and they've had to choose their favorite looking avatar. When I do the YouTube, I'll put the link to the avatar creator I used, but I'll put that on the YouTube. It's just a lot easier to do. So,
Hmm.
and that's coming in like a week. So, but they loved it. And then these buildings, like I said, I just think it's going to be cool. Like, for example, if you're wondering what do I mean by a building in my Realm of Nobles game, like one might be the blacksmith. And I have these items that have BP, these battle points.
Hmm.
So I thought one would be go to the blacksmith and he could add BP to one of your items. So you go there to kind of almost sharpen it, almost like level it up, almost make it a better item. So you take that small sword that's worth 20 battle points. Oh, but you've like spent so many days at the blacksmith that now that sword might be worth like 40 BP. Uh, so I thought that was kind of neat, and you start to get even more customization than within your game, and it's really not hard for me to do. I mean, like, that's not the hardest thing to manage or maintain. So I'm
So
really
they,
pumped.
yeah. Do they lose anything for not being? I mean, if their avatar is taken and it's on a building, is there anything it can't do, or
Well,
it's just a
you're
choice?
well, it's a choice, but like you're limiting all the other choices, right? Like, if I join soccer and that happens to be at the same time that track and field is, I can't do track and field and soccer, right? Like, it's a choice.
Hmm.
So like, while there are these 5 billions, if you're going to the blacksmith to get like more BP, you're not going to the library that does whatever the library does. You're not going to, you know, whatever.
Right. But it
So
doesn't prevent any other play, like boss battles or anything like that. It's just you're just gonna make a choice.
currently, yes. The other thing is there's very limited spots. So this is the
Okay.
other thing that maybe not everybody can even go, at least currently in its current form. And then on one of the buildings, like, I'm designing this like, right, like the
I'm
thing.
just curious.
No, no, no. The thing that I'm trying to tell like the people listening is like, this is it. Like, you are literally hearing how the design process works. Like, you're pulling it out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So like, as I'm making these buildings, I started making the blacksmith. That was the first one I did. I put 4 slots on the bottom for my 4 houses. I named the 4 slots. So basically, that means one kid per house can go there, right?
Hmm.
But then, like, when I got to my third building, what I did was I didn't name the houses. So there's just 4 slots, right?
Nice.
And then on the left hand side, I put a few more slots that said like locked, like positions or whatever. And I don't have this item yet, but you need to get an item to let you go to any of the locked positions.
I love it.
So it's going to free up some spaces. But you see, like, I haven't even made the item yet, but just while designing the one mechanic, I was like, oh, what would be better is like to also have
Hmm.
another mechanic that plays with this. So like, this is what I mean by like, people, you don't have it all figured out, and you just almost have to go explore and create. And in the process of creation, you'll start to see more points of connection where you're like, well, I have these item things. Why don't we lock some spots and give somebody the power up to go to the lock spots, which
Hmm.
very few people have the items, so that'll be a really big bonus that like you'll almost always have access to these buildings because only a few people will have access to that ability.
Right. That'll be fun to see.
And like I don't know, I mean like am I going to ever have the ability to bump somebody from like one of their spots? Like maybe. Am I going to have the ability that two people can go to the same spot? Like that could be one. Like so just this building mechanic here just riffing with you, I've come up with like 3, 4 items that I can add this year. And I
Hmm.
think we both see the potential that it's far more than 3, 4 items I could add. I mean, like,
Right.
there's a
Well, I was
ton.
even wondering, are negotiations going to happen between players and what's going to happen on the back end? That's what I was wondering. That could be fun to see too between students.
Students or guilds. Like if I ended
Right.
up having 5, 6 different buildings, do we as a guild communicate like Carrie, you should go to the blacksmith, get
Right.
that, and oh my gosh, you should go to the library, and
Yep.
you should go to the like, whoo, like I just think that that's
We're here, John. I was just here. You need this to go. Now you go too. So
yeah.
next week, it could be super fun.
No, I think that that'd be pretty cool. So I'm really pumped about some of these changes. I'm sure I will document some of those along the way, both here on Well Played as well as on the vlog. But I just can't wait. I mean, literally, I get super jazzed. Like Monday is not a bad day for me. It's like the start of the week where I get to implement a bunch of fresh new ideas and
Hmm.
learn more, especially here at the beginning of the year, learn more about my students, which will only inform more decisions for my game.
Right. Absolutely. I'm excited for you because I remember the map last year you were really excited about, and it just didn't come to life for you. But you didn't give up on it. You just, changed your thinking about how you wanted to present it and how you wanted it to interact with students, and that's what's really fun to see too.
So what I think, yeah, so what I think you and I had talked about this before, like, so the map didn't work, but I almost see this building thing as what I wanted the map. Like, so while I tell you
Mm.
today, go to the blacksmith to do this, what I kind of wanted was each city to have a power. And it was like, oh, you'd have to go to like Ravensport to get that. And you'd have to go.
Right.
And I think that that would come with a whole lot of storytelling. Like, I love the idea of the cities and the map and traveling, but it just didn't work for
Right.
me yet. But I see this as a nice in between. If I get enough buildings that work, those buildings later could translate to cities. I have to figure out the movement mechanic and like how that works.
Yeah, it gets more complicated because the more students you have, sure, but you have your guilds too, which helps.
Yeah. So, all in all, super jazzed about what I'm rolling out this year, and not quite giving up on some of those other mechanics just yet. But uh, it's going to be awesome. Kids
That
are
is awesome.
already digging the game. I mean, they are like
Mhm.
in. I got my first few side quests. Yeah, they're excited.
I had my sixth graders because I have my students for 3 years, so they go through a 3 year journey, a 3 year long game. And so my sixth graders got their first lightsabers, and they were just like giddy, like I got my lightsaber. Oh my gosh, I'm a Jedi, a Padawan. It was really fun to see this like this new energy enter the game, because they had gotten their first lightsaber, and that meant that they could start the next step. So that's super fun.
I
It was.
mean, it is, right? And like when you see the kids just sort of excitement, they're teaming with joy. We have a new member on our team this year. Sixth grade English got a brand new teacher, and well, not new teacher, new to sixth grade with us, and she's been great. But it's been fun to even see her sort of experience the joy from the students. Like she
Hmm.
manages a sixth grade study hall, and she's like, man, all the kids were just super jazzed to like create their avatars. And so when I went around and I helped them, like reading like what this was going to be used for and how they're going to use it, and mind you, like the creating of the avatar, the way I had them do it on this like Google slide, and then they had to print it out and they had to cut it themselves. Like being a middle school teacher, I'm constantly thinking about like the system
Hmm.
because I can't do it all,
Hmm.
or at least I should say I choose not to do it all. Because, for example, the sixth grade science teacher, she has them all handed in via Google Classroom. She prints all 90 of them. She cuts all 90 of them. that's asinine to me. Like I like if there's something I can make an 11-year-old do, I'm gonna make the 11-year-old do it. Like so. Uh, but this other teacher, the sixth grade English teacher, was really kind of blown away by like how much like when the kids are excited about it and the kids want to do it, like they're all doing it. They're going to this website, creating it, downloading the image, taking a screenshot. So I had to teach them how to do
Mm-hmm.
a screenshot, pulling that screenshot into the Google slide, sizing it correctly, doing it, keeping the font right, printing it using this certain setting so that the size stays the correct, and then like cutting it. Like they're all doing it. Like that's insane. When you think sometimes we ask them to do just our homework, which is simple, like read this and like respond to this one question, and they get it wrong or they don't
Right.
do it right. Here, there's this like 10-step process I want them to go through, and they're all doing it because of the drive and the
Yes.
excitement.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super fun stuff.
It's crazy.
It is fun. It's just fun to have that new energy back, every new year is reset and you get to experience, they get to experience it like it's new again, and then it's new for you again too, which is really fun.
I love it.
And each year is different, right? We know that too. Like you were talking about pruning, and I think once you get the foundation of your game, it's wonderful to have that as that feeling of like I got this and I know what the foundation is, but it's really even more fun to have new students infused into your game and let them add elements of it because the gamification allows you to build towards student needs too, and that's really exciting also.
Yeah, I mean, like knowing your student, building relationships with those students. I mean,
Hmm.
that is so key, and it's something that gamification can really pull out of both you and them. There's
Hmm.
this like safe space that is the game for
Hmm.
the two of you to sort of geek out with,
Yep.
and it's freed from content. It's I don't know, it's just really awesome, to see students go to that space and geek out with me, and then I can geek out with them. But maybe they're a low reader, and like social studies is super hard for them. But
Hmm.
like we get to build this relationship where we're both enthusiastic, excited in that safe space of the game.
Hmm.
And from that healthy, strong relationship, my game gets better. But so does their like social studies skills, and so does my knowledge of how to like push them and approach them. Like I don't know, I love it.
No, I agree. It's super powerful, and what it lets us, the relationship and the game give us permission to push students towards things that they would have never tried, because under within the game it gives us permission to do new things, and because the game allows it. But then that relationship is so strong that they take new steps that they never know they could do. I mean, I remember last year's group was the best. They pushed my gamification skills higher than any, and they were doing things that I never would have expected students that are 2 to 3 years below grade level to do. I mean, we did boss battles. I mean, we talked about it before. It was just they'll blow your minds when we push them the right way, and the game lets us do that because it gives us permission to do things that a teacher couldn't, in terms of pushing our students, because it's the game. But it's amazing to see what kids can do when I don't know, when there's a little bit of fun, a little bit of creativity, and a different expectation. It's really incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm reminded that story or that idea reminds me this week with my 10-step process that they had to go through, which was I mean, it was difficult. Um, a kid came up to me and said like I don't quite know how to screenshot, and of my directions, that was one of the easier ones. I mean, because it's just a three keystroke thing where you just push these three buttons on a Mac,
Hmm.
and then you kind of can select whatever you want to take a screenshot of. And I just said to him, like you are the Fortnite generation. Like you can memorize like a series of button commands. Like how are you not able to? And he's like, well, I play on the Xbox. And I'm like, that's not like an acceptable answer because like an Xbox makes even less sense to me because it's like there's
Right.
right
Left
one,
button.
right
Yes.
two, like plus your X, Y, A, B. Like it's even worse. Two joysticks. You can do all of that, but you can't hit three buttons on a keyboard. He looks at me. He's like, I think I can figure this out. And he goes, and it was like a minute later, it was quiet study hall. A minute later, he was like, I did it! He was so excited. But I just think it's one of these things, too, we need to encourage students to be like, just like a game. I mean,
Huh?
you are excited to like unlock and figure something out in a game, but then you hit any level of resistance outside of a game and you almost have zero like desire or energy or confidence. I don't know what the right word is to use there, but like they don't have it.
Mm-mm.
Um, so just it was interesting when I framed it in like you're able to do this in a game. And my little joke with you made it sound more condescending. I was like much more like upbeat with him, trying to encourage him that he can do this
Right.
because there's so many button combinations in Fortnite and you figure them out. And I know you didn't read a user manual or whatever.
Right.
Um, and he was like, "You're right." So I think sometimes just reframing it can be
Mm-hmm.
huge. Uh, but Carrie, we're already past the 30-minute mark. Like it's just, gosh, time. What? Gah! I need like a 10-hour session with you. So we have a very quick reflection time.
Okay.
Here we are. And this one is by unknown, which means you might have said it. This could be you.
It was not me.
It could have been me.
It could have been.
It could have been you, the listener. This comes from our listeners.
It did not.
We don't know that. You can't say that for sure.
That's true.
This is supposed to be quick.
Okay. Go for it. You're the one doing all the talking this time.
Sometimes change is what we need. Do you want to respond first?
I will respond first. So I'm going to try to be short, but I don't know that this is going to be short. So stop laughing because you're not helping. I remember when I finally decided to gamify my classroom, and it was almost from the moment that the first XP went out to my students and I saw their eyes. And I think I was in my, I don't know, 16th or 17th year of teaching and special education, which can be, it's a pretty long life as it is for a special education teacher. But to think now I'm going into my 21st year, and I think that gamification was just what I needed to reinvigorate me, to re-challenge me, to allow me to bring out even more and greater things in my students. And sometimes the thing that what we were looking for wasn't what we expected we needed,
That's a really good answer.
Thank you.
Everyone just listen to Carrie's answer again because that was really good. Yeah, nope, not going to even try.
This is one for the calendar. Michael's silent.
It's amazing.
Speechless.
That was really good. That
Thank you.
You really encapsulated how all of gamification, it wasn't even on your radar in terms of the change you needed. But the change it brought was just what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing. Carrie, thank you once again for joining us and sharing with us your excitement, your experience with gamification. I always love having you on here, and I know everyone else does too.
Thank you. I always love being on here.
And everybody else, thank you for joining us, as it truly is an honor every week that you dedicate some time, your commute, whatnot, your lawn mowing, I have no idea what, but I appreciate that you dedicate that time every week. I can see it in the analytics that each week it gets more and more of you are listening every week, and it's just awesome. Thank you for those of you that have been passing Well Played's name on some tweets about podcasts when those questions come up. That it just always helps builds the community. And if you ever want to post a comment or sort of give us some feedback, the Well Played now are also videoed and put on YouTube. So you can just go to my YouTube channel, find the episode you want, and sort of comment there. I don't remember how long I've been doing that, but probably the last
This
20.
season.
Yeah, probably the last 20 episodes are that way. So you have well, maybe not 20. I'm at 74. I don't know.
24.
Check it out. So, everybody, thanks for listening. It's an honor. Until next week, see you later.